Hey everyone, so I'm going to show you today a little bit about fixing an original Xbox controller. A lot of the times when people have these controllers, the people wrap around the cords and that tends to break the cord ultimately in the end. Inside these wires is stranded wire, it's not solid core. So with that said, you know, the more you're wrapping it around, the strands inside tend to break over time. And let's say even if it's not all broken, it could cause issues with resistance. And once voltage is fed through it, then that's where the problems start. So I know one of the quickest ways to show whether there is a break at all or not is to check continuity from the harness that is right there to the actual plug itself, and you'll see inside there is the pins right there, and you want to just go along and test accordingly first with continuity just to make for certain that there are no breaks. And so I'm going to put one lead on each and we're going to test out. Go to the third one, fourth one, fifth one. This last one is ground, so you test on the outside. And there's two little ground points, so I tested both of those. Now that says that obviously there is wire connected from both ends, from the plug that plugs into your Xbox to the harness. Now you can always check the solder joints on the back of this harness since it is soldered to the board, but I have already reflowed that and that is obviously not fixing my problem. So the next thing you want to do is check the resistance. Check basically seeing if there is any breaks in any of these at all. So obviously the resistance is not going to be terribly high. So in this case, I'm going to set it to my 200 ohm setting. And with that said, we're going to check. So we're going to go with the first one. And we're getting 0.6. That is about right. 0.5 is kind of where you want it to be. 1.0, 9, 1.0. That one's pretty high, so there's likely some broken strands in that one. We're going to go to the third one. 1.0, also very high. 1.1, that is pretty high. And the last one, 0.6. So the first and the last are not so bad, but everything else seems to be reading pretty high. So that means that we have breaks in the cord along the way. Now I do have another cord, which is ultimately what I'm going to be replacing here. And most people like to do is they like to chop off a portion of the wire and re-solder it together. But because the break is somewhere within the wire and it's not directly at the end over here, I've checked by, you know, wiggling it around, and I'm not getting anything in this front section towards the controller. So obviously the break is within the rest of the cord, and we're not going to obviously strip down this whole thing just to see where it's at. That's going to be more time and work than it's worth. So what we're going to do is actually unsolder this one right here, and then we're going to put on one from another controller. And here is my donor board that I'm going to be using. I'm going to take it off this one right here, and we're going to swap this onto the board of the one that was having some issues. So I'm going to try to get this in camera a little bit. Hopefully that's better. Might be a little bit difficult to actually get this, but I'm just going to do the first couple and then skip ahead to once it is removed. So I will do that now. All right, and so with the harness disconnected, desoldered from the original board and the old board, I now have my donor harness. So we will plug that in right through those solder holes. All right, so that's gonna go right there. And then we are going to add a little bit of flux, which I do need to get some Q-tips. All right, and now it's time to add a little flux to these points. And then add a little bit of solder. Perfect. So we're going to clean it up with some rubbing alcohol or IPA. This is 70%. And let's clean up our mess. And just let's turn it over. And we can check again our resistances. All right, now it's time to check the resistances with our multimeter. Once again, I have this set to my 200 ohm setting because it's not going to exceed that. So move this up a little bit so you can see. So we're going to check the red one first. .5. Next one. 0.8, so a little high. Now this was a working harness, so even though we're getting some high readings, it's possible that this one is still has less breaks in it than the other one. And 0.5, so this one is just only slightly less than the other harness. But now that the new one is on, I'm gonna put this back together real quickly and give it a quick test. And here it is together, hooked up to the Xbox right there, the crystal one. And we're gonna see if it's working. Because you can hear it. All the buttons are functional. And there we go, we just launched a game. So it is working. So this is one of the ways for you to fix your original Xbox controller. Granted that if you've already tried to cut and strip and rewire up the original cord itself and it is not working for you, and you've already tried checking for continuity, you've checked for good traces, you've checked for good capacitors on yours, and you've tried everything, you might want to check the resistances like we've gone over, and that might be your issue. So this obviously worked for me, and I hope it works for you. Thank you for watching.